Hello, I'm Guru Scott. On this video we're going to be replacing some Price Pfister faucets on a shower. These are the kind that have cold, hot, and then a diverter which sort of changes it between hot and cold. Now to do this you're going to need an O ratchet set or a special tool available from Price Pfister, and you're going to use the 13/16" socket to get down inside to get to the nuts that loosen these out of the fixture. So the way this works, of course, is it lets everything come through and you can take it loose. So I'll show you that in a minute. You're also going to need some various things like some Krytox grease, a couple of boards, some plumber's pipe thread sealant, some gloves, various screwdrivers, possibly some Teflon tape, don't know yet. Got to get this apart first and then we'll see. So first thing we're going to do is take the oven apart, and I'll show you that here in a second. First thing you're going to do is take the screws out that hold these handles on, and there's 3 of them, 1 for each handle of course. You're going to use a Phillips type screwdriver. So you take those off, and then you're going to carefully wiggle the handles off. And as you'll see, this is nearly a 40-year-old house, and this stem has already been leaking on this, so this one is really in bad shape. This diverter part here is in pretty bad shape. So what I'm going to do next is use a board to pry against these while I take a socket and loosen each one of these, and I'll show you how to do that here in a second. Okay, so I've set up my O ratchet, so it's going to go in here, and if you wiggle it on you can get it all the way on to the piece we need to pull out. And what I'm going to do is take a board and hold it opposite so we have a little bit of opposite pressure while I break this loose. And what we want to do is make sure we don't damage the whole piece inside here. So we want to take each one of these loose in this fashion, and then we'll be right back. And make sure you have the water turned off before you do this, the house water, because if you don't, and if you don't open up a few sinks, then you're going to have water going everywhere. Okay, at this point I've actually loosened them up, so my goal now is to take them out carefully. So I'm going to do that, and when I get all of them out, then I will come back and we'll inspect inside and see what it looks like behind the wall. Well, these were a lot worse than I thought. They had probably been leaking behind the wall. Definitely completely corroded and far beyond needing to be replaced. I couldn't even get the chrome pieces off. They were frozen on. So I had to just twist the whole things off with pliers. Fortunately, I was able to get them out. And so now we're going to look at putting the new pieces in. Okay, the hot and cold side had these like 2 plastic O-rings. And also on the cold side where it was very corroded, I had to take a little Scotch-Brite and clean the very front of the body assembly that's in there. It had been leaking along the edge. It seems to be in decent shape, like the new O-ring piece will go in there okay. It's just that it had leaked a little bit, so I cleaned it up to get some of the copper sulfate off that had come out of the bronze or brass. And then I cleaned it really well with some 91% IPA. And so now I'm going to go ahead and get ready to install the hot and cold and diverter stems. So I'm ready to install the hot water, and I've determined that for me, I like to turn them in like this in order to turn the water on. So I have a choice here of using pipe thread sealant, which I'd put on the threads. I prefer Krytox perfluorinated grease. This doesn't really act as a sealant, but it acts as a lubricant for the threads, and it should allow me to snug this up real well, and then if I ever want to get it back off, it should make it very easy to get back off. So I think I'm going to use the Krytox in this application, and so I'm going to put some on here, and then I'm going to install this and just snug it up. That's all I'm going to do is snug it up, not super tight. So I'll do that and I'll be back. I've installed this now. It's snugged up real good and snug. If I was to guesstimate how much torque, probably 12 foot-pounds of torque, Not a whole lot, just enough you can feel it snug up and tighten up. So now I'm going to install the diverter and the cold water, and then I'll come back and we'll see what's going to happen next. So when you install these, make sure you put the little black O-rings with them. They actually come with the piece, with the stem piece here, but you want to make sure they're on there when you install them and that the old ones are off. So the old one's off, new one's on. And then you want to turn all these off manually. I used my old handle to do it. And you want to turn them off so that you can go turn the water supply on, look through the wall, make sure there's no leaks. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to come back. One thing I wanted to mention is I did not replace the seats. It comes with 3 seats in the kit. And the seats, you're supposed to use a 1/4-inch drive rod or a seat driver. I actually don't have a driver, but it doesn't matter. These weren't leaking through the head of the shower. So in other words, they weren't having a leak by. The problem with these old ones were the stems themselves were leaking due to aging. So I elected not to replace the seats at this time. I'll keep them in a safe place so I can replace them later. But if you do replace them, you need to wind them with some Teflon tape and then put them in according to the instructions. Seems kind of not the way I would do it. I would use some of this pipe thread sealant to put them in and seal them rather than tape thread, because the Teflon tape might tend to get caught up in there and make a leak. So I'd prefer not to do that. Maybe some of y'all out in YouTube land might have a better opinion on that. So at this point, I'm ready to install these parts here. So this is going to go on something like this. And this piece here, it threads on. So I'm going to thread it into place. And so I'm going to get that done, and then I'm going to come back. Because what I'm going to do is put some sealant around it, around here. Some that I can easily remove. So that I've already checked to make sure it is dry. So everything's dry back there. And the reason I want to put some sealant here is in case these leak again, I don't want them leaking into the wall. I've installed the trim rings. I just snugged these up hand tight. No sense in having them super duper tight. Actually, that one's a little loose. So just tighten them up by hand. And that should be good enough. And then now I'm ready to install the actual handles. So these pieces go over like that. Then the handle goes on and screws into place. And then we put the little piece in. So we're going to do that, and then I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so I've put the screw in here and just snugged it up. And when I snugged it up, I also held the knob so that with opposite counterforce. So now I'm ready to install the little cold water marker. So I'll put that on straight in there, and then that should be good to go. And I'll do that for all of the knobs, and then I'll come right back. This is the finished job, and I do still have the water turned off to the house, but this faucet will open that way, and this one will turn the opposite direction. So that's about all there is to do in this job. So hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Tschüss.